This past year, I've been getting reacquainted with reading manga, and while I've tried to expand what I've been reading, I can't help but pick up copy after copy of Made in Abyss. When I heard that we'd be getting a Made in Abyss video game, getting an interactive experience with Reg and Rico as they dive into the depths of the Abyss itself, I was all for it. And well, finally getting to play it has been quite the experience. A lot of it good, and some of it odd. Made in Abyss, Binary Star Falling into Darkness comes with two different experiences. The original title, Hello Abyss, which features the central characters from the anime, following along the path that the anime and manga take, but with more mechanics added of actually exploring the Abyss built in. And the original story, Deep into the Abyss, which features a custom character of your own creation, as they also take on the challenges of the underworld. The differences we'll get into later, but let's take a look at Hello Abyss first. If you've never seen the anime or read the manga, this could be an alternate way to get into the story of Made in Abyss. Probably not the preferred way, but a way nonetheless. A lot of the events and even some of the dialogue is copied straight from the series itself, coupled with the adventure of traveling further into the depths. I love having the chance to explore each layer of the Abyss, encountering all the unique creatures every layer holds, and learning how to deal with them to survive. This is something to keep in mind, as is true with the series. The further you go in, the more difficult the creatures of the Abyss become, sometimes to the point of only taking 1 or 2 hits until you're dead, and having to start back at the last autosave can be quite the pain. Luckily, Rico and Reg can work together to travel further down. Just remember that trying to come back up from the Abyss is a no-go, and you'll soon feel the effects of how deep you are, as traveling back upwards will cause you to feel the very curses of the Abyss, which mostly translates to taking status debuffs. As you play Hello Abyss, you might feel something is a little off. Mainly that despite tools having durability, you never see them weaken when you use them. There's also the fact that even though you gather materials throughout the Abyss, you find yourself not having to use them a lot. Rope is a needed item to go deeper into the Abyss, but not as much when Reg can just lower yourself down with his mechanical arms. You gain money, but you don't see many ways to use it, and despite your clothes having stats, you never seem to find a way to upgrade them. That's because Hello Abyss acts like a sort of tutorial or easy mode. You don't have to worry about all the stats and weapon durability because the game wants you to focus on playing through the story. This is nice if you do want to experience the story, but at the same time, it kind of makes the mode feel a little more hollow, no pun intended. The real challenge begins when you enter deep into Abyss mode. An original story, a custom character, and a harder mode are what makes this game a little more fun. You'll have to keep in mind the items you have in your pack, how much more use your items have, and remember to keep your hunger low as you travel the Abyss. Complete quests and get more stuff done to acquire better materials and clothing. This is where the game feels it's at its peak, because everything you do matters. You can find yourself getting over encumbered and having to work out just what to take. This is also present in Hello Abyss, but when you don't have to worry about your materials as much, it's not as much of a hindrance. I do like how easy the crafting system is. Everything is just there for you to combine items, and you don't have to go through all these convoluted steps. I feel it helps to keep the adventure going. And besides, with hunger, creatures, and the threat of falling to your death, there is no scarcity of things to worry about. Made in Abyss does a good job at making a cave diving experience feel rich and engaging. You can gather materials in various ways and use them with a lot of methods. And you can even research and discover the creatures of the Abyss and the layers they inhabit. This is a nice distraction that shows the Abyss does have a nice side to it. That is, when you aren't fighting to stay alive. And speaking of death, let's talk about one major feature of Made in Abyss. If you're familiar with the series, then you know that one thing it's known for is its gore. And I'll warn you, there is no lack of that. Getting killed means getting treated to some pretty rough cutscenes. It's kind of shocking to think that this game has more on-screen violence than Resident Evil 5. This game's certainly not afraid and won't move the camera out of the frame. I've gotta say, I'm pretty impressed just how much the trailers made this game only look bright and cheery until about the last few scenes of gameplay. Like they knew they had to make the M rating make sense somehow. I found my experience with Made in Abyss, Binary Star Falling into Darkness more enjoyable than anything else. The simplicity of crafting and thought put into the exploration makes for a pretty fun time, and a game built upon depth does a pretty good idea of capturing that feeling, watching the light slowly fade from view, and even having a little meter present to show you just how deep you are is a really cool feature. The gripes I have are very few and far between. For one thing, I would rather the Deeper into Abyss be available at all times, rather than having to be unlocked after playing Hello Abyss. Hello Abyss has a lot of features stripped from the core game, so it's a good 2 or 3 hours before you can really challenge yourself. The game as a whole is pretty short, but for me personally I kind of see that as a plus. The final note I'll end on for this game is that it's 2022. We are still in the era where developers feel it's a good idea for characters to repeat voice lines. And I mean really repeat voice lines. For a bit of extra fun, you should count how many times Reg asks,
"Hey Rico, are you ready to go?"
And then how many times Rico responds,
"Of course I'm ready."
Thanks for watching. Hey, thanks for checking my first impressions of Made in Abyss. I gotta say, it's a pretty fun ride, but let me know if you feel a bit different. Leave a like if you liked the video, and consider subscribing if you're new. Happy cave diving, and keep it practical.